Today, during our African politics class, the professor held a lecture about post-colonial politics. Which in particular talks about how political systems developed in the nations of Africa upon being granted independence from their European mother countries, their European colonial powers. In summary, some African nations turned to democracy a capitalist system, while others turned to a communist economic system, but many of them became authoritarian, those kind of systems of governance. And for a long time, there's been issues regarding corruption, and ethnic tensions. Going into the 1980s and 1990s, African nations were often compelled to make policy changes within their systems of government, so their economies would be closer to neoliberalism, along with their political systems, in exchange for receiving developmental aid. And I believe nonprofit organizations at times had to pick up the slack when the former colonial powers and other nations failed to adequately pull Africa out of poverty and famine. This is the general post-colonial history of Africa. The lecture was from (9:30) in the morning. Today, I had initially thought it started at 9, but it turns out it actually started at 9:30. And My intermediate Spanish 2 class consisted of some exercises regarding, I believe, the subjunctive tense, which again is generally used to either advise others or to give opinions on hypotheticals. These exercises came out of the book that I believe I ended up buying once again, as it came with the access code I needed for the online component via VHL Central. I think when we were about roughly 60% done with class, La Professora stopped in order to discuss with the class the possibility of having some of our classes being through Zoom, so that we can do group exercises. Group exercises in person are pretty iffy right now due to the ongoing pandemic. So I'm thinking the in-person class sessions would be used to go over grammar, in which, through all my attempts to participate today, I learned that if you can't use the Spanish word for instead at the very end, if you use it, then the sentence must end with an infinitive verb. Hurston currently has the 2% milk in these containers because apparently they forgot to order the 2% milk bags. Excuse me. Oddly enough, I'm not detecting any noodles in this homemade chicken noodle soup. It's still pretty good though. I got some corn and edamame. The thing with the instead word, it was during the first exercise in which I wrote some subjunctive advice. Basically, I said it's bad you want to throw away your broom. And I started this because, based off the drawing, it looked like the broom was in the trash can. I think it is possible to balance a broom on the non-bristle part, on the bottom, on the floor. And I at the time basically said that wasn't possible, but it's definitely harder to unbalance your broom with the bristle part on the bottom. I think I did some work on the 99th Dan Hamming. And some seconds on adjusting that first scene involving Kate to make the sleep breathing look more like actual sleep breathing. For quite a bit of the day, I was concerned with ensuring that I did my contour and blind contour drawings in time for my art class, visual experience. The dress shoe I used for those contour drawings is now the shoe I'm going to try to do it was a French word at the time, literally meaning to fool the eye, to trick the eye. I'm pretty sure there's a difficulty spike as you near the end to what you need to get this item. Excuse me. I in particular am nearing the end of this carding library. Anyway, we're making the illusional shoe out of clay. Basically, the contour drawing exercise during that last art class so long ago. Speaking of which, there was some confusion in art class today, as I only remembered that we meet basically in room 2204, which is a room on the second floor. But when I got there, there was a note stating that that class was going to be in 211 today, which is the ceramic studio. The whole atmosphere of the art class, the more hands-on approach, compared to all the other college classes I've done, it feels like I'm back in high school again. Something along those lines. When I went to get dinner, After getting dinner at Harrison Dining Hall, I opted to make a stop at the Nest, sanitizing my hands. As I wore no gloves. Excuse me. In order to get the usual 2 Rockstar Thermo energy drinks. Luckily this semester they seem to have plenty to go around. I've not yet encountered a situation in which they didn't have them. I'm quite grateful for that. Yeah, there's basically not much you can really do in regards to produce X standard goods of your choice. I mean, I recently upgraded this Scrolls manufactory and this Elixir manufactory, but excuse me. While it does help by increasing the rate at which you produce goods, it also takes time to upgrade manufactories, along with culture and population. The current order of business is probably to upgrade this steel manufactory to complete this Dwarven side quest. Today, not too long ago, a new tournament started up. In fact, it is this which allowed me, or really facilitated me in completing an earlier task set. This is where I'm at currently. I can at any time activate this technology completely, though I dare not. For my next task set may be to require me to activate a technology, or maybe to activate 2 technologies. There seems to be quite a bit to look forward to in this Fairies guest chapter. Although my current Dwarven settlement is also quite effective. And there will be some Dwarven ancient wonders to build the days to come. Excuse me. This is typically what I do in order to find those, the event good that's typically used in order to do something like this. Though, today's daily exclusive isn't a building, so I'm not interested in it. Yeah, I'm currently crafting 6 10-minute time boosters, which I used a whole bunch on combining catalysts so I could complete an earlier task set to gain 2 combining catalysts. It's a much safer bet than taking your chances with the Spire of Eternity. If you saw the lunch picture attached, you can see that, oddly enough, at the time of lunch, I couldn't find an empty plastic glass. That was before I used. I oddly enough couldn't find any of those, so I used this. I think when I got chicken noodle soup for lunch, after eating that chicken noodle soup, I used this as a glass, pouring milk into it. Like so. Our time in the ceramic studio for art class consisted of a PowerPoint lecture using an old projector that gave me high school vibes, at least, possibly even middle school vibes. I pointed that out in class by stating I hadn't seen a projector like that in years. And it ran on an Apple or Mac operating system that was old enough to have something from 2008. But it still ran well. And the presentation includes some pretty good pictures. Excuse me. I think the word is pronounced Trumplent. Something like that. It's where you apply artistic concepts to turn 2D drawings or clay into basically 3D images. The pictures La Professora showed were quite interesting to see. I worked the clay by doing some open palm strikes onto the clay and then using a rolling pin in order to flatten it out until it was big enough for that dress shoe that was roughly a foot long. And we would take careful care in both me and the professor who helped ensuring that the bottom would look as close as possible to the actual bottom of that dress shoe to some sort of effect. I actually created a textbook for my African politics class by drawing this with a pen, and I did the same for my visual art experience class. I don't know if those classes are the kinds of classes in which, and they're not the kind of classes where it's easy to take notes. I mean, the professor for the African politics class, he doesn't lecture off of a PowerPoint or anything like that, as I'm quite accustomed to. Over my years in Brockport, I've met some professors that were quite interesting to me. Oh, and today was the day in which in Bloons Tower Defense 6, I completed the Monkey Knowledge Path for Heroes, which are special monkey towers. You're typically only allowed to have one on in a game. Excuse me. Each player is allowed to pick one from a pool. Some you immediately start off with. I think there are others you have to unlock, and others you have to unlock with monkey money, but you can get around that through co-op mode.